Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, will Dean Pease be able to come up with a plan to stop Justin Fields?
And it's a flip of the script, a 180 from where they were last year to where they are now. How, Sway? How the Hawks do it?
And then for the culture, are you interested in holy ears? We'll discuss all that next. Don't go anywhere. It's ATL Day Ones, baby. Don't go. We about to get it started. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that for you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by Bet Online T. When I say the Falcons got a test on their hand this week, because just from a fantasy standpoint, Justin Fields has absolutely been tearing it up. But, they still been taking L's. They actually lost to the Detroit Lions. I think they get lost in the conversation about how well he's been playing, and the Chicago Bears finally have figured out, Eberflus and company have tried to figure out how to use a mobile quarterback in today's NFL game. Cool for them. But I think that the Falcons defense have not, and I went back and looked at the schedule, and I was just like, the Falcons haven't faced a real mobile quarterback, that teams that uses that mobility as a weapon, like the Chicago Bears. And PJ Walker, you can make a case for him being a mobile quarterback, but they don't use him in that light. So I kind of X'd him out of that factor. So I think that with Justin Fields coming into Mercedes Benz on Sunday, I think Dean Pease is going to have to be ready to go.
Yeah, and one of the key reasons as well is it's not just the run game where he, of course, gained 147 yards on something crazy like 13 carries on Sunday. It's the number of points that the Bears are putting up as a result. In the last 4 games, we're talking about 30 points. And in games actually at the beginning of the season, 30 or 30 plus points. And even at the beginning of the season, they were putting up some serious numbers. The Falcons have not been able to do that. So if the Falcons can't get past 17 points, honestly, it really doesn't even matter what Dean Pease does on defense if the offense can't give a little bit more firepower. But going back to your point, I think you make a great point, because here was a defense that going into that Panthers game was ranked 8th against the run. But slowly but surely, that defense has kind of been getting away from whatever the formula was for them in the beginning. So whether that is, like we've been saying the last couple of days, switching some players and giving some other players some more snaps, or maybe going back to the drawing board and saying, okay, maybe some of these disguises that we are using, maybe they haven't been working as effectively as they were in the beginning, but something, and I don't believe it's anything big, Jarvis, because we're talking about essentially the same team. We're not talking about a lot of the players. We're not talking about the run game being impacted by injuries, I guess is what I'm saying, compared to, say, the secondary and the passing. We understand how that fell apart completely. But these are the same players that Dean Pease has been working with the first half of the season. So I feel like each and every player, maybe with the exception of Grady Jones, has to step up, or the players who have been stepping up, like an Arnold Ebiketie, you've got to give those players more opportunity to do what they do well.
Because when you look at it, T, like, you get talking about giving up over 200 yards rushing, like, that's the fundamental, basic, bare bones thing of the defense, was stop the run. And they in the beginning of the year, they were able to be pretty solid against the runs. So it's just these last 2 meetings against the Panthers and the Chargers squeezed in between there, it's just been horrific. The run fits have been horrible. Just recognition of just basic stuff of reads and recognitions they haven't been able to get through, and the linebackers just been over pursuing everywhere, and then the zone blocking scheme, they act like they had never gone against that before, because the one thing that I learned at a very early age in my football career is you aren't getting penetration in that outside zone scheme, you are in trouble. And the Falcons have been on blocks trying to reach and not get rid of that man and trying to reach over and make tackles. That's just not going to work when you're talking about stopping the run and making sure you're resetting that line of scrimmage, because they haven't been able to do that. Like you mentioned, Grady Jarrett is a guy that he's going to have to get back on that high horse that he was on to start the season, because I'm talking about sacks, penetration, TFLs. Like, they're going to need Grady Jarrett to do that. And I think that coupled with, getting some Arnold Ebiketis in there and some D'Angelo Malones, getting some guys in there that have flashed and that they can perform. Now they have a good understanding of what you're trying to do on defense. Dean, go ahead and start using those guys.
Yeah, and also just get back to basics. I saw some really poor tackling in the last couple of games, and so it's easy also for those runners, whether that is the running back or whether that's the quarterback or whether that's just a short kind of pitch and catch situation. If they get past the first level, don't let them get past the second level. Right. Just some basic tackling and getting them down so that you can at least keep them from advancing the chains or forcing them to a third down and maybe a third and long. So that puts you in a situation where they're forced to pass. And then maybe, like you said, you can bring pressure a little more easily, and then you can get them to turn the ball back over to your offense.
Yeah, and then to add to that, right? These special teams and defense and offense, they're going to have to be on the same page. We're going to have to work with each other, because you can't be turning the ball over, putting the defense in a bad situation and then giving up quick scores, or you can't give up a big run on a kickoff return or a punt return, and then putting your defense in this bad situation again. So I think they're going to have to get all of these three phases to start working together to like you said, get back to the basics, because it's not like we haven't seen them be technically sound and not make mistakes and play sound football and make plays when need be. Yeah. We're not asking them to do something they haven't done before. So, but I do think that Pease is going to have a nice little like game plan for Justin Fields, because everybody knows what he's been accomplishing for the Chicago Bears, and I think that the Falcons will be, or should be, at least have a game plan in place for those guys. Speaking of having somebody in place, how about first place? Michael Harris II wins NL Rookie of the Year, the Jackie Robinson Award. I'll get to a little bit of that in later. But T, your first response, just from when you heard the news that Michael Harris II is the NL Rookie of the Year.
I was like him, shocked, because that he was expecting to hear Spencer Strider's name. I said it on this show yesterday that Michael Harris should win, but Spencer Strider, being that he's a pitcher, probably was going to win. But I really like some of the articles that I saw that really honored and acknowledged the 5 tools that we talked about with Michael Harris. And that was what was most exciting for me once I got over the shock, was the fact that you started seeing articles written by some of the Baseball Writers of America talking about all of the tools. So they even acknowledged his defensive rating, which is top 10 amongst players at his position across the entire league. That takes nothing away from 19 home runs and 20 stolen bases. Man, that is the truth. But one of the words that I have been saying all morning as well is risk and reward, because Alex Anthopoulos and company took a serious risk pulling a player from Double-A, like they did with Michael Harris II. But man, listen, how about the reward for doing that? How about the baseball writers getting it right and giving him 22 first place votes? And if you're not going to give him the other 8, Spencer Strider was definitely the guy to get him.
Absolutely. And you have those guys being the 1-2 punch, so to speak, to help the Braves take down that 10.5 game deficit that started in June. It's just totally fitting. And you think that, outside of them being co-rookies of the year, I think this is probably about the best turnout that you can have. Also, I wanted to bring this up too, because I thought this quote was pretty interesting that Michael Harris gave once he found out that he won an award. And he said, quote, "To have an award named after Jackie, it means a lot because he paved the way for players like me," said Harris. 21, a former third-round pick out of Stockbridge, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. Just to be able to have an award named after him and actually win it, I can't even put it into words. It's just a feeling that's unmatched. Yeah. That kind of goes to show you how, a lot of times we meaning the community, the culture, will call players out for not acknowledging who they are and what they're accomplishing at the time. I know there was a lot of people feel like Todd Bowles should have acknowledged that, hey man, you're getting another opportunity as a black head coach, and he kind of shied away from it. But to hear a kid, so to speak, a young adult say, you know what, I know the place that I'm in, I know what I just accomplished, and to be accomplishing it and getting an award that's named after Jackie Robinson, the number that's been retired around the entirety of the MLB. I think it is a huge deal, and shout out to him for not only because he wasn't around when Jackie Robinson obviously wasn't going down, and then shout out to his parents for letting him know that, hey, dude, this is where you come from, and this is what you need to acknowledge if you were to get this type of recognition.
Right. And I believe it was the World Series. And if it wasn't the World Series, it was certainly the championship round for Major League Baseball, where the acknowledgement was there were no African Americans playing.
It was in the World Series. Yep. No American-born players. Yep.
No African American. I said it the way I meant it.
Yes, you did. Yep.
So when you think about that, that's powerful that Michael Harris II is taking on and embracing that mantle, because he did say he knows that there are young men, even in this Atlanta metro community, who are looking at this game and have probably turned a head away from it, will now turn back to it and see baseball as a viable opportunity for them, see it maybe as cool. And I'd love to see him become one of the faces of Major League Baseball. I think that he would be a great ambassador, just like the namesake for this award. And for him to be embracing that and understanding the assignment, that it's more than just about baseball, right? It's also about the representation for him as a young man of color who is born and raised right here in Atlanta, to say, hey, I know what this means, and I'm embracing it. I'm not shying away from it. I take the mantle on, and also taking on the mantle saying, hey, I was disappointed in what happened to the Braves this season. And I'm also taking that mantle on as a young guy, saying, hey, I want to be a part of getting us further along next season. So, wow, I met him, had an opportunity to chat with him.
Yeah.
He is truly wise beyond his years. And yes, a whole heck of a lot of credit goes to not just his parents, but if I remember correctly, I think he said Fred McGriff has been very instrumental in his development as well. Pretty much that he speaks on everything. So,
yes.
So you love pulling back from that generation of the Braves from their heyday, someone who is so respected and appreciated and loved, to be able to just pass on that wisdom to MH2, and for him to actually be open and willing to receive it. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, that, like you said, it pretty much sums it up. That young man is wise beyond his years for sure. If you want to be wise, try to get some money. As far as from betting, go to betonline.net. It is the fastest, easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find out your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. I went to check to the website myself before we started talking, because we're talking about the Falcons against the Bears. We're talking about how the Bears and Justin Fields at 30 points a game and over 300 yards in 2 games and rushing from a quarterback. That is absolutely crazy. Yeah. It's so crazy that it's never happened before. So guess what? You're trying to figure out what the over-under is. I've done the research for you already. It's 50 points. So they're coming in averaging 30. So can the Falcons get to 20 points? You can't quite figure it out. I know I'm struggling with it. Go to BetOnline right now, because they're the top online source for all your sports wager information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. You guys get all your ATL sports information right here on ATL Day Ones, and you listen to us, our podcast, go to betonline.net. They have the podcast waiting just for you. They got you covered. So head to BetOnline today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, because BetOnline is where the game starts.
Now the question becomes, where does the game start for the Hawks? We're going to get into that in a minute, but first things first, we got to give the Hawks more than their credit, because literally for the first time since December of 2016, they were able to get a dub in Milwaukee. And it really was a wire-to-wire win for them. 121-106 was the final. They improved to 9-5 on the season. And Jarvis, there are so many little layers of goodness to what we saw last night. It's like literally, where in the world do you want to start? So I really want to start by, of course, giving credit to a couple guys that we talked about even yesterday. Talked about the fact that if Onyeka Okongwu was going to be back, we felt like he was going to make a contribution, which he did off the bench. We talked about Clint Capella and how he's been just lights out.
Hold on, T.
You want to go one by one?
His name is no longer Clint Capella on this show. His name is Clint Rodman. Sorry. I'm going. You don't have to call him that, but I'm gonna call him the man. His mama named him Clint Capella, but I'm gonna call him Clint Rodman. Clint Rodman is out there doing his thing. Go ahead.
So John's not robbing anymore. Jason's not robbing anymore.
No, Clint Rodman, like Dennis Rodman.
Oh,
Rodman. Sorry, my Southern Decatur,
ATL
Atlanta. Sorry, my bad. I got excited
when it comes to deciphering those.
My accent came out. Sorry.
That's a side joke that we'll tell you all about one of these good days. But yes, we could give him Robin, because when you're talking about doubles, 19 and 10 last night, it's a beautiful thing. Yes. And last but certainly not least, because we're going to get into a couple folks, DeAndre Hunter, just really, really taking command of that game early with season high 24 points. Jarvis, you got to love what you saw out of the Hawks last night.
Absolutely. And I said this last night when I was watching the game, I was like, just from a team basketball standpoint, this just was one of those games for me. I just feel like, man, I hope it's a turning point as far as like, okay, Trae realizes I don't have to drop 30. Dejounte saying, okay, I don't necessarily have to, go into the putting up so many shots and forcing getting people involved and all that stuff. But I think that, this was one of those games where you hope this is like, okay, all right, this is our identity right here. Yeah. Playing defense, being a smothering, playing excellent defense on Giannis. It was just masterful how Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu were able to defend Giannis Antetokounmpo to the point where he fouled out. So those are all the things that I just love seeing. But from a DeAndre Hunter standpoint, that's his game. Yeah. I think that's the tape that whenever Nate McMillan feels like DeAndre Hunter is starting to slide, starting to slip, he needs to show that game last night against the Milwaukee Bucks. Being aggressive, going to the free throw line. He had 10 attempts from the free throw line and 10 for 10, as a matter of fact. Perfect from the free throw line. Those are the type of things that with your body style and with your improved handling of the basketball, Hunter is really setting himself up to be that guy. And we talked about this coming into the season, T. We know what DeAndre Hunter can do. We know what he's capable of. But this is the guy that we need to see night in and night out, T. Yeah,
and that's what we're liking, the consistency. Because literally it's been maybe like 10, or not 10, excuse me. It's been 6 games. We're only in the 14 games into the season, and already 6 games, you've had all 5 Hawks starters score 10 or more. So that tells you that there's a lot of attention paid to detail and balance. And the other thing that you were talking about, Jarvis, is being aggressive. And that's how you become the team with the second highest percentage of points in the paint. I didn't say from the 3-point line. The Hawks.
Yes, exactly. The jump shooting this team that we've seen in the past few years.
Right. And that speaks to the aggressiveness that you spoke about, because you can't get to that higher percentage of points in the paint unless you are taking it to folks and taking it to them on a consistent basis, which brings me to where we are now with the Hawks being 9-5 on the season. Jarvis, at this point last year, it was the exact opposite, 5-9. What is the biggest difference that has gotten them to literally flip the script on their record year over year?
It has to be the defense. I will go ahead and say that, because they're just looking at some of the rankings. Well, I think they're 16th now as far as points given up points allowed in the NBA in the entirety of the
Mm-hmm.
NBA, because that's what we talked about, right? Coming to the season, we're not asking them to be the number one team. We're not asking them to be the Miami Heat or anything like that. Some of the great defensive teams in the entirety of the NBA. We're just asking them to be average, middle of the road. If they're a middle of the road team defensively, we're going to see the difference. And I think that last night was that. We saw what this team can do, or what they're capable of, if they're committing to playing defense. And then just and I also thought it was kind of funny. I started to think about the show that we did yesterday when we were talking about AJ Griffin. AJ Griffin came in that mug in the first quarter, and I was just like, oh, I guess he found a matchup that he liked.
Yes.
He didn't mind AJ Griffin guarding Grayson Allen or whoever, he may have come up against. So I was just like, oh, Nate, I hear you. Yeah, bro. Yeah. If the GM talking about that dude get more PT, bro, you better put him in. I don't care nothing about what you're thinking about as far as, the rookies. Oh, man. Hey, man. We like you, Nate. So, yeah, in order to stick around, go ahead and put the young pup in. And as soon as he comes in, that first shot is wet. Automatic. It's going in. Absolutely. Every time.
And speaking of, we want to keep you in place versus get rid of you, Ron Rivera. Riverboat Ron actually was able to sign an extension on some level to his tenure over with the Commanders. And of course, they ended the Eagles' unbeaten streak. And why is that important to you guys here in ATL? Because after you listen to us, we know you want to go and listen to Locked On Sports Today and hear their reaction to the fact that once again, the 72 Dolphins can sip, and tip for being the only unbeaten team wire to wire in a season. So again, you want big game recaps. Well, that was a big game indeed. And listen, they do their own for the culture. It's called Take of the Day. You want to check that out, then make sure you go to visit Locked On Sports Today. And that's at the Odyssey app. That is at YouTube. And that is wherever you get your podcast. First ATL Day Ones, then Locked On Atlanta. And Jarvis, I will tell you this, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Do you think that the Hawks have had their biggest test so far, or are they going to pass their biggest test tomorrow when they take on the Celtics?
Wow, that's an excellent question, and I'm probably not going to answer how you think I'm going to answer, but I don't. It's a big test because Boston, everybody that know they are the favorite in the East in my eyes. I picked them as far as being coming into the season as them being the number one team. Obviously, because they're coming off a finals run appearance against the Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. No reason not to pick those guys coming in, but they got another one coming up on Saturday, T. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. No
Raptors. That is the game that I've got circled. I'm just like, all right, y'all got a chance to kind of feel each other out. Like I said, mentioned last night. Last night was the blueprint of how the Hawks should play every night. Obviously, they're going to take that to tomorrow night at State Farm Arena against the Boston Celtics. That's cool. But I got my eye on that Toronto Raptor matchup because that's the one I want to see. I want to see this team that we saw last night go up against that team at State Farm Arena.
Yeah, they've got to figure that one out Saturday. So, yeah, I would definitely say that that might be a 1A and a 1B as far as like
most definitely. Yeah, they're right there together.
1A might be Saturday. I can give Saturday 1A against the Raptors and 1B to the Celtics tomorrow night. But listen, if you are going to be like us a little bit and kind of nervous about what's going to happen, whether that's Wednesday or Saturday, you don't have to be nervous by yourself. All you have to do is get a Built Bar to make you feel all right in those moments of nervousness that you might have. Or even Sunday, if you're nervous about the return of Justin Fields to his home space. And that cookie dough chocolate pup is probably what's going to help to make you feel all right. Why? Because it's 100% real chocolate. And guess what? Only 160 calories. I mean, you're doing pretty good with that. And of course, the 15 grams of protein that are absorbed pretty darn quickly into your system, which means that you're able to use it for fuel just like we do. So if you want to check out cookie dough chunk puffs, you can go to built.com and don't forget to use that code LOCKEDON15 because that's what gets you 15% off your first order. So again, check out built.com so you can get more information and also just place your order for those cookie dough chunk puffs. Locked on 15. That's how you get that 15% off.
at 15% off. Go and check those people out at built.com. Man, I'm telling you, those bit bars are absolutely amazing. But T, we are almost at 5,000 subscribers. I just want to take a little quick second just to thank all the good folks. We are coming up on 4,900 right now. We're on our way. We're on our way. If you have not subscribed to Locked On Sports Atlanta, ATL Day Ones, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting on? Go ahead and join the cool kids. Stop being lame. You can't be lame in 2022. There's a lot of people that's lame out there. Don't you be a part of that group. Go and get with the cool kids. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. And sometimes what the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. Like when you sent me this one, T, like first of all, it brought back memories. And then second of all, it was just made me bust out laughing, right? So Mike Tyson, for those of y'all don't know, Mike Tyson, Vander Holyfield had this historic fight back in the day. And back in 1997, to be exact, some of you may have not been around. Some of you were. I know I was. I was sitting there watching in my living room on the Scrambler box. If you don't know what the Scrambler box is, just hit me at atlday1s@gmail.com and I'll explain it to you. All right, but I was sitting there watching that fight, and you knew that Evander Holyfield was really starting to take advantage of Mike, and we knew that where that fight was headed, but Mike Tyson had an issue with that, so he bit the man's ear off. So fast forward to today, Mike Tyson, is into the cannabis, and and he came up with this idea that he wants to come up with some gummies and call it Holy Ears. And Mike Tyson's wife said, if you're gonna call it that, you might need to give Evander a call. And Evander answered, and he said, you know what? Let me try it out. Evander tried him out. Quote, I fell asleep. So, T, is this just a great business move, or this is just Mike Tyson just being funny? Hey, I'm gonna make some money, and we just gonna roll with it. I don't know.
No, Mike Tyson has done incredibly well for himself. He had that cartoon that may still be going on, but people said it was actually very good. Right. And he has literally taken his cannabis business to the next level. Like this is just another phase of that for him. So shout out to him for being creative and kind of making lemons out of lemonade. And Evander Holyfield, listen, you got a lot of kids, so you probably want to jump in on the venture if at all possible. Might not be a bad look for you, man.
So I don't on Nick Cannon level, huh?
Yeah, because I know he
$3 million in child support.
Didn't he sell his mansion recently?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So he may need some additional revenue, some additional streams of income or revenue. Yes. Might want to get on that.
And take care of the babies.
Right. That was so long ago as far as like the negative aspect of it, right? Right, exactly. So to be able to turn it to something positive, shout out to Mike Tyson and for his very ingenious wife for telling him, hey, why don't you pull him in? Because look at it. We're talking about it. We're literally bringing it back to the forefront of culture. Boom.
Yeah, absolutely. And when, for those who you are into that type of stuff, you can go check it out. I think the flavor is the cherry pie. Now, I don't know if the cherry pie is what Evander Holyfield's ear originally tastes like. I don't know. I'm not going to sit up here and say that. Don't drop your head, T. I'm telling the truth. That's what they say at church, right? Yeah. But anyway, my bad. This is going all off the rails. But yeah, I think it is pretty cool for Evander and Tyson to be collaborating on something like this, because we all know all the negativity that came with that particular incident, and Mike Tyson is addressing all his demons and just kind of moving on with his life, and this part of his career, I believe, is starting to be a lot better than what his actual boxing career was. And a lot of people didn't believe that if you go back to the mid to early 90s, because we all know what Mike was and what he brought to the table from a boxing standpoint. But T, we want to thank the folks for making ATL Day Ones their first listen of the day. Also, make your second listen Locked On Sports today. We're talking about takes of the day. If you're trying to listen to a hot take and trying to see what's going on from a national sports perspective, check out Locked On Sports today. It's free and available wherever you download your podcast, and wherever you download us. It's right there waiting on you. I made an appearance on there after the Falcons-Panthers debacle. Go check that bad boy out. It's pretty special, if I say so for myself. But T, tell the folks what they got going on for tomorrow.
Tomorrow, we are going to preview Hawks Celtics. It's exciting because the Hawks are back home going for win number 10 on the season. So we can't wait to talk to you guys about it. We're going to dig a little bit more into Falcons and Bears and anything else that comes up on this sports landscape here in Atlanta. You know, we're going to talk about it. And if you guys want to drop some comments in the comment section, tell us what your thoughts are as well. And we might talk about that on the show too.
Absolutely. Y'all come back now, you hear? Don't be lame.